Hey guys, this is our quick little assignment here before our real spring break. And it's going to be over advanced area and volume is what we're going to focus on. So we're going to use some of those polynomial rules from last week that we learned or reviewed from algebra, and we're going to actually use those in order to generate area and volume formulas. So let's get right into it. Oh, yeah. Make sure you do have a piece of paper for notes, please. Yes, thank you very much. All right. All right. So looking at basic areas. Area of a rectangle. So area of a rectangle, we can just call it length times width. So when we do this, what's unique about this type of a problem is that our length and our width are not numbers, they're expressions. So here's my length. Here's my width. Okay. And honestly, it was no rhyme or reason between picking those. I just, assigned them which one of them was what. So for this one, then I would have the problem 4x plus 3 times 3x minus 1. And this is a binomial times a binomial. So you can either use FOIL or you can use the box. I'm going to use the box here. And we're going to multiply that out. So I got 4x plus 3 on the side, 3x minus 1 on the top, and I do my multiplications. 4x times 3x is 12x squared. 4x times negative 1 is negative 4x. Now I'm down to the 3, so 3 times 3x is 9x, and 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. I add up my like terms, so I have 12x squared. My x's get added up. 9 plus negative 4 is 5x minus 3. And that is my area. Now you could put on there units squared if you really felt like it. Okay. So area of a rectangle, you're going to see. Now, one that tends to be a little harder because we forget about something is area of a triangle. And for area of a triangle, we have to remember that the area is going to be 1/2 base times height. Okay. So I'm just going to label this. This is a right triangle. There's my base. There's my height. Oops, H. There's my height. And I'm going to plug this stuff in. 1/2 of base times height. Now, there's some different ways to do this. I like to try to go left to right the best I can. But I know some people will prefer to just do your 2x2 box. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it that way. 2x2 box. So don't forget, you still have this 1/2 that you have to deal with. So my 2x2 box. So I have 4x plus 10 and x plus 7. So 4x times x is 4x squared. 4x times 7 is 28x. 10 times x is 10x. 10 times 7 is 70. And I have to add up my like terms. Now, don't forget, we still have our 1/2 here. So I have 4x squared plus 38x plus 70. And then I have to do half of that. So 1/2 times 4x squared is 2x squared. 1/2 times 38x is positive 19x. And 1/2 times 70 is positive 35. And this would be my area. Okay. The next type that we're going to have to deal with is a piece, I should say a problem that it's irregular, I should say. Okay. So there's a few different ways of doing this. The big thing is you need to break this up into figures, known figures. So for me, when I'm going to do a problem like this, I'm going to break this up into two different rectangles. So this is going to be one of my rectangles. I'm just going to break that dotted line right down there. So this is going to be one of them. And I'm going to get this area. And then this is going to be a second one. And I'm going to get that area. Okay. So for this first one, the bigger of the two, I know what this long side is, and I know what this long side is. So I'm good to go with that first one. So let's go ahead and get that area for that first one. And we have 2x plus 1 times 6x plus 5. Just doing a rectangle like we did on the very first one. So your 2x2 box. I'll do my 2x2 box. And I know some of you might be using foil. That is perfectly fine. 2x plus 1, 6x plus 5. So we've got 12x squared, 10x, 6x, and 5. So for this first one, I have an area of 12x squared plus 16x plus 5. So that's what I'm going to get there. And I'm going to go ahead and write that in here also. Now, the tricky part with this second one is I know this side, but I don't know what this side is, this little piece of it. I know the whole thing is 10x plus 9, but I don't know what this part is. Okay, so I'm actually going to have to do a little subtraction problem. So what I have to remember is on this side, I'm sorry, just move my deal. On this side, this top side, this portion of it is 6x plus 5, and I'm just missing the rest of it, this little piece here. Okay, so in order to figure out this side, I'm just going to take 10x plus 9, and I'm going to subtract 6x plus 5. Now remember, if I'm subtracting this, I'm going to distribute a -1. So this is going to be -6x and -5. And then when I go ahead and take those away, I am left with 4x plus 4. Okay. So this missing side that I needed is 4x plus 4. Okay. Again, I did that. I took this long side and I subtracted away this small piece of it, what I knew. And that gives me what is left. Okay. So let's go ahead and get that second area. We have 4x plus 4 times x plus 1. So do my 2x2 box. I get 4x squared, 4x on the bottom, 4x and 4. So this one, I get an area of 4x squared plus 8x plus 4. And that's what this one is. Now, if I want to find the area of the whole thing, then I just need to add those two together. So I'm going to add 12x squared plus 16x plus 5. And I'm going to add 4x squared plus 8x plus 4. And I'm going to get 16x squared plus 24x plus 9. Okay, so there was a lot more work to do on that particular one. Again, to kind of recap, I found the area. I decided to split it up. I found the area of this one. Okay, I had to do a little work in order to figure out what this missing side was. Remember, I subtracted. And then I found the area of the second one. And then I add them up. Okay, so those are the area types of problems that we're going to see. And now let's look at a couple volume problems. So for this first one, the volume of a rectangular prism. Okay, the formula we're going to use is length times width times height. Okay, well, guess what? There's my length, there's my width, there's my height. Well, plug them in. So I have 7x squared y to the third times 2x y to the fourth times 3x to the third y to the fifth. And I'm going to go in here on this x. I'm going to make it x to the first. That way I don't forget about that exponent. Okay. And now this is just multiplication. And we reviewed last week is when we're multiplying same bases, we have to add exponents. Now numbers are numbers. So 7 times 2 times 3. 7 times 2 times 3. That is going to be 42. Oops, let me put that off to the side here. That way I have some space. So there's my 42. My x's, I have x squared, x to the first, and x to the third. Well, if I'm multiplying all those x's, I'm going to add up those exponents. 2 plus 1 plus 3 be x to the 6. And then my y's, I have y to the third times y to the fourth times y to the fifth. Since I'm multiplying those y's, I'm allowed to add their exponents. And that's going to give me y to the 12th. And there's my volume. Units cubed for volume. Okay, the very last volume problem that we're going to deal with is a cylinder. Ooh. All right. So we got volume equals pi r squared h. Now, here's my radius. There's the radius. And then this is actually my height. Okay. Usually when we see these, it looks sort of like this. Okay. But it's just tilted on its side right now. Okay. So now this one does get missed a lot, and it's usually because of the r squared part. So I have pi, r is x plus 6. So I have x plus 6 squared, and then times 11. And I need to focus on getting this part done. Now, the common error is that we don't execute this correctly. Okay. X plus 6 squared really means x plus 6 times x plus 6, guys. Okay, so in order to do this correctly, for the x plus 6 times x plus 6, I need a 2x2 box. Or I'm going to do the FOIL method. X plus 6 times x plus 6. X times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times 6 is 36. Okay, so right now, I have pi times, and I'm going to add up my like terms here, x squared, 6x plus 6x is 12x, plus 36 times 11. Now, I'm not going to mess with the pi, but I am going to multiply that 11 in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and distribute that 11. I'm still going to have the pi here. So 11 times x squared is 11x squared. 12x times 11 is positive 132x. And 36 times 11 is positive 396. And then I'm just going to say units cubed. I am not going to mess with distributing the pi. It is perfectly okay to leave it as is, just like that. Okay? And that's the last problem. What I need you guys to do, and you might have to go back and look at the notes as you're doing your worksheets. Okay. But I need you to work on the worksheet on Cami. Okay. Make sure you're doing it on Cami. That way, all you have to do is click the turn in button. I believe some of us are forgetting to click the turn in button. So make sure we're doing that. If you need help turning that in, get a hold of me and I will help you get that taken care of. Okay. And you guys have a wonderful break. We'll get back and doing some review when we are back in April. Okay. Adios. And y'all have a wonderful, wonderful break. Bye.